Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport Podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. On this week's show we're just going to go straight in to an incredible interview Kieran had with World Kickboxing Champion Tony Stephenson. And before we hear from Tony, Kieran, you might just tell us a little bit about him and then send us over.
Yeah, Tony Stephenson, and now a two-time world senior kickboxing champion, which is incredible again here for West Cork. We're so proud of when our local athletes conquer the world, and Tony Stephenson has twice. First time was 2009, and now 10 years later he's a world senior kickboxing champion again, which is a phenomenal feat. Tony's with West Cork Kickboxing Club. That's the club run by Ian Kingston, and of course the likes of Lily Delacour, a former world champion and a two-time silver world medalist, is also in that club. So it's been a very important club locally and achieved great things. And caught up with Tony earlier to chat about kickboxing life and how martial arts has influenced his life, and I suppose and how being a father has changed him as well. So fierce interesting interview with Tony. So we'll cut straight to it now. It's not too often that we have a world champion in the Star studio, but we do today. Welcome, Tony Stephenson.
Thank you for having me.
Tony is a world senior kickboxing champion, the second time he's won it. 10 years in between your two wins, 09 and 2019. Just a couple of weeks ago in Sarajevo, you won world gold for the second time. But let's go right back to the start first, Tony. Why kickboxing?
I joined kickboxing when I was really young. When I was 6 years old, just turning 7, I joined to get my confidence up. I had a bit of a stammer when I was younger, so I had an issue with talking properly. And my dad brought myself along with my brother and my sister down to he knew Ian, so we went down. I think the first thing when I met Ian was he didn't think, okay, this guy's going to be a good fighter or anything. I was same as any other kid, but I had a stammer, so the first thing I needed was a bit of confidence. And with 1 year of doing kickboxing, it went away. It was then took a little bit longer then, a few years, until I was starting to develop signs that I could be a fighter one day.
And you said that within a year the stammer was gone. How did kickboxing give you that confidence?
I guess I was working with someone like Ian. Like he's a person that no matter who he's working with, he'll bring out the best in them. He'll have their best interests at heart, and there was loads of encouragement, there was loads of feedback, everything was positive, and when you were working with Ian there was always a goal. And I felt like from very early on the goals were achievable. When I achieved them I felt really good, but there was always something else. So Ian brought me on like that, and within a year I could talk properly. I wasn't I wasn't stammering anymore. It was just brilliant. So I knew I was onto something good, and so did my parents. So I kept at it.
You kind of said there at the start like that you weren't any good kind of but obviously there was potential there, because Ian has helped you an awful lot, but the raw potential had to be there in the first place. When did you start to notice yourself that, Jesus, I'm actually quite good at kickboxing?
It was a while. Like, so I was even saying this to my juniors who I was teaching today even, and it was about 11 when I started to show more signs. Like I started at the same time as my brother Dominic and Hannah and my sister, and like if you were to pick the three of us, out of the three of us, who would have the most potential, you'd probably say my sister. Like I was very average, but I enjoyed it. I really did. I really loved it. And it was around 11, 12 when I started showing potential. My first 3 or 4 competitions I did, I lost in my first fight. It just took its time, but I stuck at it for reasons that were deeper. Like, as in, I felt like, okay, I'm getting confident from this. I feel better about myself when I do it. I love hitting pads. I love sparring, and I just love feeling like I'm developing. And it was a real positive environment to be in at a young age, to see myself improving over the years.
Did you try any other sports then, or was it always solely kickboxing?
Well, No, I did. I did a bit of swimming. I was a good swimmer. I wasn't any good at football. I wasn't any good at rugby or anything like that. I did all those. I think my dad really tried to push me into soccer. No good at that. Yeah, I just showed. I remember one day, I came back from a kickboxing tournament and I had won. It was my first one I'd won, and I was so excited. I was so happy. I was a different kid, and my dad must have been looking at me going, "Oh, maybe there's more to this than I think. It's not a hobby, maybe, you know." And my dad started taking a bigger interest then, and then when that came on, then I had a bigger interest, and then Ian would be working with me a bit more one-to-one, and I would, because I've been sticking at it for so many years then, at that point when I was maybe 10 or 11, he would be putting more one-on-one on me. There'd be more responsibility in the club. I'd be holding pads for the younger kids, and my dad got more and more interested. And the more I fought, the more I competed, my dad then eventually stepped in and said, you know what, I can give the judging a go and the refereeing a go. And then now my dad is one of the top A-class referees in Europe and the world. So it was actually, I started fighting, and so did my brother and sister. We started competing, and my dad then really got into it then, and he really then put sport. And my dad then was doing the training with us, and he was in every session. And when we come home, then they'd be talking in the van about what I did, what we did, what worked well, how we sparred, how we did well, how maybe we didn't do so well. So we were constantly like, it would drive my mother mad at the dinner table, where it'd be all of us just talking, and my mom would be just kind of listening to this. And my mom was a huge part of it as well, and that she prepared everything. She prepared all the good meals, and she did all the clothes and getting everything ready. But my dad had this big hands-on interest. So when you're growing up and there's so much talk about it at the dinner table and the drive home, everything was about kickboxing, you know, you just feel like such great support growing up. It's a real good environment to produce an athlete.
You actually preempted my next question. The fact you had that support and there was such kind of a common denominator between the family, that was a bit even more special.
Oh, it was. And it was good then, like I could grab my brother Dom and go, Dom, do you want to do some pad work? And every time it was yes. And same with my sister. And, you know, my dad was firm with me. Ian was firm with me as well. But I remember there was a time when I think it was 12, or maybe it was even after I won my first competition. I came in one day and a few of my friends had quit, and I felt like, oh, do you know what? I'm sick of doing push-ups. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, why am I doing all these push-ups for? And I just went to my dad and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. My dad had already seen me kind of take a backseat on soccer, and he just turned around and went, no. I was like, what do you mean no? He's like, my friends quit. I want to quit. I was like, no. You know, I know what's best for you. Mm-hmm. You're going to do this one day and you're going to thank me for it. And he's like, you're going to do this and stick at this. You had a bad week. You'll have a better one next week. And then next week I did. He was absolutely right. And from kickboxing, I've gotten fit, strong. I've represented my country. I've got a job out of it, teaching classes and kids, which I love. I love my job. I've even met my partner through it now, and we have a baby together. So my whole life has kind of stemmed. Like, if you were to go back to that moment, that was a very crucial moment in my life. And I'm so glad that I had someone like my dad in my life to go, no, I know what's best for you. You're going to do this, and one day you thank me. And I have. Because
you were probably at the time almost cursing him silently, kind of saying, Jesus, no, I do want to quit and stuff. But he could see the bigger picture. He could see
and it would have been
stick with it, Tony. Like.
Yeah, it would have been so easy for him to go, well, yeah, do you know what? I don't have to drive you down to training. I don't have to pay the $5 for your classes or whatever. And I could stay at home and maybe you'll fall back into soccer. He could have easily had that mentality and been like, yeah, I don't have to do as much then. And, you know, I could see how a lot of parents could fall into that trap. But my dad's just firm, and he knew that with Ian I was onto something good, and same with my my brother and sister. He knew there was something good, that we had gold. We had a magic in the club that Ian was producing, and my dad was like, no, we're not letting this go. And he's like, you're going to stick at this and you're going to thank me, and I absolutely do.
A couple of years later, like obviously your junior days, like World and European level, they went quite well for you.
They did. I was really lucky. I guess starting off, I was very skinny, lanky and thin. Not as what I am now, but like very skinny and lanky. So I had a reach on some of the opponents I had, and I had a good front leg. Ian knew from an early age I could kick quite well, so he honed in on that. I remember he was like, okay, you're good at this, let's make it really good, world class, and then work on your weaknesses as well. So when I was fighting in these junior events, I was picking people off and keeping them away with my lead leg and scoring with my front leg, and I felt like I picked up an awful lot like that. I was soon known as that weird Irish guy with the weird front leg. And it won me an awful lot of fights. There was a few fights then I lost and people had me figured out. And Ian was like, yep, you can't be a one-trick pony in this game. He's like, we also need this and we also need this and we also need this. And I was slow to adapt, but I did in the end. And I took on these other styles and other ways of fighting and I added them to my game. And over the years then I started improving. I won against some really good top-class opponents from some really top countries. I think 2005, 2006 were my first big wins. But it wasn't without my losses. I lost an awful lot as well on the way, and so did my brother and sister, and so did other people in the club. But it's you have to fail, you have to, and it's a thing where you get knocked down, you lose, you have your cry, you sulk, you're like, okay, what do I do next? And you talk to Ian and you make a plan and you go forward with it, and that's how you improve and that's how you evolve as an athlete. And I learned that very early on.
How do you cope with defeat? Kind of even now, kind of if you lose, would you sulk or would you just take it on the chin, or how do you? Yeah,
like I suppose Lily and Ian would know best. I definitely sulk. I definitely am not myself. I'm a bit hard on myself, but I'm very quick to go, okay, where were the problems? There was this, and this. And Ian's almost like, take a step back. Just relax. You lost. Yeah, it's okay. People lose. But take your time, come back to it when you're ready. I'm almost like, straight away. And it's the wrong thing to do. Sometimes you need to just take a step back, appreciate the hard work you put into it. Yeah, you lost, but you put an awful lot of hard work into it. So when I lose, I sometimes go back too soon and I'm too quick to critique and examine. So I guess I'm kind of like that. I am a bit ratty and sulky, but give me time, I'm back to my normal routine, but I'm a bit more focused, I'm a bit more hungry, a bit more aggressive with my training. I really go into it, but not in a bad way, I suppose. I hope not anyway.
Talking about losing, to go back to one of the first ties, your first senior world title, it's 10 years ago, kind of. How are you? So you were 17, 18 when you won that?
Yeah, I was still doing my leaving cert. So I was, I just went out to Pula, Croatia. I fought out there in my last senior Europeans. I was 17. I remember going up to the nationals that same year and winning the seniors. I remember going to Ian, like, can I do the seniors? And he was like, no, absolutely not. Like, no, like, there's a difference between fighting a strong 17, 18-year-old than fighting someone who's, 10 years on that, who's a fully grown man. Yeah. And I was like, I really, really want to do it. And Ian thought about it, and then he was like, we'll try it because it'll be good for experience. So I remember doing Pula in Croatia. I did really well. I won. I beat a Croatian lad in the final. I then went to Villach in Austria to fight the seniors then, I think a month later. And Ian was absolutely right. The guys hit harder. They were stronger. I stopped a Turkish lad in my first match, but then I was to come up against Russia. I was unknown. I was unseeded. I fought this Russian guy. He was currently the one to beat. I beat him, luckily. We had a really good plan for him, but I was still messy. I was still young. I was still making mistakes. I wasn't strong like these lads, so I got bullied and pushed around, and I wasn't firm with what I did, but I still won on points. And then that same day, then I fought Ukraine. He was the current European champion. I just only beat him, and then the Polish lad in the final, I beat him comfortably. But I definitely felt there was a bit of a difference. I was really lucky in how I fought and how Ian got me ready, because it could have all gone sideways easily, but my tactics were spot on. But yeah, the transition, junior to senior, it was a scary one. I managed to then win the Europeans. Then after that, the next year, the senior Europeans, which was I think it was unheard of at the time. Ian seriously said, like, look, this is a big deal and well done. And but I managed to stay at the same weight, 63 kg, which was
winning the senior worlds at your first senior worlds, and kind of were you almost kind of thinking this is easier than I thought it would be? Like you're coming up against grown men, and all of a sudden here is this, like you said, kind of 17, 18-year-old still in secondary school, taking on the best in the world and proving to be the best in the world. Did you kind of think for a second, Jesus, it isn't as hard as it should be? Or
yeah, I think when I won it the first time, when I won it in 2009, so I was still doing my leaving cert, it was a bit like, it was such a big moment for me. I remember like, wow, I can't believe this, this is so crazy. And then coming home, it was a bit deflating, as in, like, I felt like it was a really big deal for me. And I remember coming back, for example, now I came back I was in my 6th year, so there was pressure on me to do well in my exams as well, but I came back and my teachers were like, where were you for the week? And did you do any of the work while you were away? I was like, no. Oh, all right, you're going to have to catch up in detention. So on. It was like, what? And no one really kind of, I remember people thought I went on a holiday, and I remember going, no, I'm going away representing Ireland. So when I came back, I was like, oh, I didn't get any recognition for this. And or as much as I'd like, it was a really big deal for me. But that was the kid in me. I was looking for admiration from other people, where I was like, no, I'm proud of myself, and I should have been, but I was a bit childish in my approach and the way I looked at it afterwards. And I think that's what then drove me on to kind of want to do taekwondo down the line. I was like, okay, if I win a gold medal, everyone will know. If I win a gold medal in the Olympics, everyone will know, and it'd be a big thing then,
Like, I got interested in that. Like, if you go back 10 years ago, kind of, but even now, still, Tony, kind of kickboxing. Like, you came home from the world with a gold medal. Do you feel you get the recognition that you deserve? Lily was world champion in 2015. Lily Delacour, silver medalist the last two worlds. Kind of West Cork Kickboxing Club. I was chatting to Ian. I think it's 14 world champions and 11 European champions since the club has been around. That's phenomenal, kind of.
And this isn't like, I know, like, people maybe listening to this will be like, oh, there's a world champion in every club. There's a difference between some world champions now, and this is the thing I really want to point out. There's world championships in WKC, WOMA. There's all these federations, right? And they're not the same. As in, you could have a world champion from that, and they could fight a teammate, and it could have one fight. Yeah. WAKO is the only one. It's the one we compete in. It's the only one that's recognized by the Olympic Committee, which means it's on the way into the Olympics. It will be one day. Has the most countries taking part in it. If you want to win a gold medal in the seniors or get to the final, you've got to win 4 or 5 fights. And you're fighting against top class opponents. So we like, so when we say we've produced world and European champions, we're not like off Mickey Mouse tournaments. These are really, so it's really important to highlight that, because that's one thing I've run into over the years. And you say you're a world champion, and someone who's like, yeah, but there's a world champion down the road in this club and this club, and it's kind of like, well, you have to feel like you have to explain it, and it's a bit, it takes the wind out your sails a little bit. But no, the real cause of it is all Ian. It's all what Ian puts into it. It's all his sacrifice, and like, I bounce back off Ian loads now, and I'm starting to learn some of the tricks of the trade in being a coach, and I'm learning from him. But Ian's been my role model since I was young, and a lot of the good habits I picked up for fighting have been from him.
Like, even after the recent Worlds, you were telling me that you were so exhausted after beating the Italian in the fight, you won the gold medal, and next thing it was Ian said to you, Tony, stand up and act like a champion. It's just a little
with a few swear words in there as well. It's stuff like that. Like, I was so exhausted, my chest was on fire. Afterwards, and Ian ran on, gave me a hug, but I just didn't have the energy to stand up, and instead of, well done Tony, you did well, it was stand up, act like a champion, it was like, like, be a man, come on, get up. I was like, yeah, okay. But I just needed that second. Ian's like that, he's tough, but there's times when he's like, he's a bit softer too. He's not all whip,
Like, it's those values. Like, you go back to like a 6 or 7 year old starting the club with a stammer, he helps you kind of acquire that confidence. 27, 28, and he's still teaching, and he's still kind of unloading his knowledge on you, kind of.
Yeah, when he gets to know you, he knows how you work and operate. He knows that if I push him now, he could break, he could be, he could go backwards. He's like, okay, this person needs confidence, they need reassurance, or this person needs to kick up the hole. Ian can play but because he knows his athlete, so when he's there, he'll know the right thing to say. Like, me and Lily get sometimes a bit nervous, a bit tense before we fight, so very rarely would he be like in our face and shouting and screaming and, come on, you can do this, and blah blah. No, it'd be more calm, relaxed, composed. Okay, this you do A, B, C. That's it. He gives it very, very simple. You do this. Okay, but if this happens, maybe change it. Sometimes we go into a fight and we don't necessarily have a plan. So he would just say, keep distance. We'll know in 30 seconds what to do. So he trusts that I'll have the right knowledge what to do after I figure out the person and I judge distance and I can score points. If something needs to be changed, I'll hear him say it, but it won't be overly complicated. We go in with very simple plans, simple mind, simple like very tunnel vision when we go to compete. And Ian's very good at going, okay, Tony needs to be relaxed before we fight, so I talk calmly to him. Maybe this other person, sometime, I can't think of anyone, maybe for example in a club, I won't pick on them, but maybe say other fighter, yeah, come on, pull your finger out, you need to do this now, you need to step up a gear. They'll need a bit more of a push,
like obviously like you've the utmost respect for Ian. He's coached you for 20 or so years. Tell me what Ian said to you back in 2012, 2013 when you decided to take a break from kickboxing and move to Manchester and kind of chase the dream of being an Olympic taekwondo. Like, you wanted to get on the Great Britain team. When you told Ian that you wanted to pursue this different avenue and kind of try this, what did he say to you?
I can't remember exactly what he said. He took a step back. He was a little bit disappointed, I think, because he wanted me to stay in kickboxing and stay in the sport, and I completely understand that. He was just a bit quiet with me at the start. I can't really remember what he said, but when he had time to think, time to process, he went, "Do you know what, Tony, this is for you. This is what you want to do. You're never going to get this chance again. You're young, you're fit. You don't have any responsibilities. You don't have kids or a mortgage." And he's like, you won a world title now. You've done what you want to do in the sport. Let's give it a go, and you'll learn. It won't make you any worse. It'll improve you as a fighter. It'll improve you as a kicker.
And why was it so important for you to try and to get to the 2016 Olympics in Rio and in taekwondo and get on that Great Britain team? What was driving you?
Well, so when I applied for the team, they kind of said, you've got potential, and I absolutely believed it. Of course I did, and they believed in me as well. When I wanted to I guess I just wanted to give it a try. If I didn't try it, I would never know, and I would always live with, what if? So it was really important that I just try it and really go for it and give it my best, and I did. Unfortunately, it was never meant to be. I felt like in some regards I was too overly structured, and I had a load of really good habits for kickboxing that weren't good habits for taekwondo. But it wasn't anything on their part. They did the best for me. I did my best. The coaches over there were fantastic. They were really good too. But it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't good enough.
Because you 3 years away from home here in West Cork, you were living in Manchester, training professionally. Even though it didn't work out, as an experience, a life experience,
it was. You couldn't put a price on it. It was so good. It was so good to say for a time I was a professional athlete. It was good where I was in an environment where it was all about the training. It was all about the competitions. I got to do so many competitions in the year. I really got to understand about diet and proper nutrition and proper sleep, and everything was revolved around performing at the highest level I could. Now, it was the same in kickboxing, but when you're just to do kickboxing, there's no other job, there's no teaching, there's no this, they're running around or doing this. It was just training and just competition. It really highlighted to me, wow, what a life of an athlete, a professional athlete is like.
And how close did you come? Because I was looking through some of your results. There was a bronze in the Commonwealth Games, you won gold in the Greek Open, there was bronze in the Luxembourg Open. So you were winning medals in taekwondo.
Not enough. No, I needed to win a whole lot more points. I would probably need to stay in the sport a whole lot longer. But the thing was, there was no guarantee. It's so cutthroat in that, you could train for 9-10 years, be winning medals, be winning points, but it comes down to, there's a lot of other people behind it that decide who goes to the Olympics. There's also injuries as well, and I could have put another 4 years into the sport. I could have lost relationships I had back home. I could have lost my partner over it. I could have gone and been like, okay, I could still be I could be potentially in Manchester still now, living and training out there, but there'd be no guarantee I'd be going to Tokyo. And I think that would really, if I did another 4 years or 3-4 years and I didn't make it to Tokyo, then I think I'd be really, really gutted. I think it really would break me. I put my heart and soul into those 4 years, and I didn't make it to Rio, but that's something I live with and I'm okay with now. But I had the option of going, okay, do I want to do this again for another 4 years at the chance of going to Tokyo? And I really asked myself, and I said no. I was doing this for a reason, to win an Olympic gold medal, not to. I couldn't say like, oh, I love taekwondo. Like I couldn't say, oh yeah, I love this. This is my sport. My sport is kickboxing. I couldn't say, oh, I love taekwondo. It wasn't that. I went in to do that because I wanted a medal. I wanted to get a gold medal. I wanted to get recognition. That straight away is a really bad start, bad platform. That's a bad reason to do a sport. It's nice to be hungry for stuff, but if it was karate, I would have done karate. If it was Thai boxing, I would have done that. It just happened to be taekwondo.
You were chasing that recognition you spoke about earlier.
Yeah. It's a childish. It was like a very boyish kind of, young boyish kind of immaturity that I had. I was like, I want recognition. I want people to know who I am and recognize my efforts. And I think it was a bad starting point. I didn't love the sport going into it. I loved training in it and stuff, but it wasn't the same as my love for kickboxing.
Like it probably was disappointing when that didn't work out, but at least you did have your partner to come back home to here in West Cork. You did have the kickboxing club, you had family and friends back here. So did that make it so much easier kind of to relocate from Manchester back here?
It was, because I had people back home that would, no matter what. I remember I kept in touch with Ian like every week when I was still in Manchester, and Ian was like, well, Tony, if you want to come home, there's this and this and this I can do for you, and still then we can get you back fighting. And with my partner, so supportive. But again, she had to move on with her life as well. We were having a long distance relationship for 4 years. She was a bit older than me. She wanted to have kids, and she wanted to still also do some traveling and holidays. And if I'm training so much and only earning so much, and I couldn't come home unless it was once a month or once every 2 months, you're telling them then, okay, yeah, I want to do 2020, and she's like, what? You're doing this for another 4 years? And she's like, Tony, I got to get on with my life. I can't be waiting on you. So it was, she's dead right to say that, and anyone could have been less patient, but she was really supportive up until then, and was like, she had it in her head, Tony's going to do Rio, he's not going to do Rio, but he's going to come home after that. And then when I was kind of teasing with, look, a year before Rio, I kind of figured out I'm not going. So I was kind of going, there's Tokyo, and she was like, no, I've got no. You're if you're going to Tokyo, I'm not going with you. And that's completely fair. Yeah. So I had to make a few really, really tough decisions.
You came home then, like you said, West Cork Kickboxing Club was here, but and you did immerse yourself back in the club again with Ian and so on. Was it hard then? Kind of, you'd gone from kickboxing to taekwondo, and you said there was probably hard to kind of like the structure and so on. Was it hard then to go back from taekwondo to kickboxing, or was that an easier transition to make?
It was easier because it was just something I've been doing since I was 7 years old. Like Ian said, I definitely picked up a few bad habits, but he said I also picked up some really cool stuff that kickboxers wouldn't know. And I definitely found that I was doing stuff that I learned from GB Taekwondo that kickboxers would never have seen. They would have never fought against some of the tricks I had.
Is it just technical stuff, or is it in fight stuff?
It's in fight stuff and technical stuff. It's tactical and technical.
Yeah.
Ian was like, yeah, there's something else to your game, but also your boxing's gone backwards. He was like, you're all kicks and your hands are pretty shite. So he had to go back and be like, all right, we have to go back to your basic on your boxing and work your hands properly. And that's what he was doing for the last 3 years, all leading to Bosnia.
And you said all these leading up to Bosnia, like the results were improving kind of. Was it the World 2 years ago? You got bronze, was it?
Yeah.
So it was kind of building up towards Bosnia a couple of weeks back. Talk to me about that tournament. So five fights, 5 wins, and you came home with gold. It's just an incredible story.
Yeah, so I went out there with my teammates Greg and Lily, and I went out there with also my dad and Ian Kingston. Like before going out there, there's no injuries. I was training hard, but I was training smart. I wasn't overdoing it. Other years, I think I overdid it and I got injured, or I burnt out. So I was really it felt like this is the first year I'm really in sync with my body. My diet was on point. I was losing my weight weeks and weeks before I had to go in for my weigh-in. So everything was perfect. I had a beautiful daughter at home that was just born, who was happy and healthy, and I had my partner Breda, who was really supportive. So everything leading into the tournament was perfect. And Ian was even saying, you're the best you've ever in test matches leading up to it. He was saying, you're the best you've ever looked. You look really sharp. Everything you're doing is right. And I was still kind of like holding my breath, going, God, there could be, because you're just waiting for that. When you've been injured before leading into it, I was kind of holding my breath, like, oh, there could be, but it wasn't. There was no injury. Everything was fine. So leading into the tournament, really looking strong. I fought against a Spanish guy first. Again, it was one of those fights where we didn't have much info on him. Ian just said, go out there, the first 30 seconds you'll have him figured out. I did. Second round there was a bigger lead. Third round I had him figured, and I had him well sussed, and I was winning well. Second fight was the one where it was really, me and Ian had, we knew this guy was going to be tough. So his name is Vrej Petrosian. So he's a Russian fighter, and I think in the last 4 years one guy's beaten him, and it was very close even at that. So I was always kind of like, oh, I wonder what I could do, how I do against Vrej, and I think his style would suit my style, and fighting his style would I would suit my fighting my style would suit fighting his style, and he's a very forward, aggressive fighter. And I knew he would come at me hard and fast, and he has that massive tank where he could just keep coming at me in 3 rounds. So like weeks and months beforehand fighting, before I fought him, I was visualizing fighting him. I was visualizing being in the fire with him and under the stress. And so me and Ian had a plan. We said, right, he's going to come at you. Match his intensity. So that means just throw shots, just throw hands and match his intensity with the hands. But on the way in and out, find a kick. And I said to Ian, look, you know, there's going to be times in the fight where I'm going to be so tired where I just feel like I'm going to have to tuck up. But you need to tell me, because some judges are bad and they'll score shots in the arm. So I said, like, if that happens, you need to let me know, because I'll be giving away scores. And the first round, I matched his intensity. It was crazy. It was all go, 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 go. There was no real, like, figuring out. He just came for me straight away. And I remember in the second round, I tucked up. I just remember just going, okay, go. I need a break. Just whack away. I remember he hit me with like 12 or 13 shots on the guard. And I remember him stepping back and giving me this really funny look. And I remember then shooting him a smile going, I have you figured out. I've you figured out now. Because at any time then I could tuck up, take his shots and work him back. And then as the fight went on, he was losing less heart. I remember at one point in the clinch, I had his arm up. However, I lifted my arm, his head came down. I remember hitting him with an uppercut and he said something in Russian and it didn't sound good. I remember going, oh, I got a response there, so do it again. So it was kind of like that. And as the fight went on then, he was talking to me in Russian and I knew it wasn't positive. So I kept on doing what I was doing. Towards the end, I got a bit more confident and I was like, come on, let's go. And I was looking for a strong finish. Like, he's the world champ. I want a good finish. I want to slug it out. And it ended kind of that way and I caught him with a nice kick at the end. But I remember coming out of it and going, that was my best fight ever. That was everything went perfect. My plan was right. And I know he went in there thinking I'd be an easy fight. And I was like, yes, that was so satisfying to beat someone at his caliber.
The boost you get or something like that, like you said, even in the fight you could sense that he was getting frustrated. So if he was a fighter, to kind of see the little chink of weakness, you know, like you almost grow a foot taller, kind of. Yeah,
like I was really tired, but I was putting on that I wasn't tired. Like I was like, come on, which is something Ian wasn't happy about. You know, Ian doesn't like showboating or any of that stuff, but I was in the moment. I was really fired up and I felt it was appropriate. And then in the last round, Ian, the only advice he really gave me was just throw bombs. It was throwing a big right hand down the middle, so timing the time between his leg dropping down, his hands following through, was timing with the right hand. And I remember hitting him as hard as I could and just seeing the shock on his face and going, yeah, I am strong. I'm stronger than this guy and I'm fitter too. And it transitioned over then and I definitely took it to him then in the last round and I was much stronger on the finish. And so everything went to a plan. Then I came out that fight very pleased, and then my next fight was against a Ukrainian. He was tricky, kind of like the Spanish, but he had a bit more to him. I remember I dropped him in the first round with a side kick, and then I dropped him again, I think in the third round with a back kick, and I knew after that he didn't have much left in him. So I won by a good margin in that one. The next fight then I had...
Which is a semi-final. Yeah.
Semi-final. It was against Switzerland. I felt very confident fighting him. I saved myself for the final. I checked distance. I kept him away. I didn't overexert myself. I just did enough to win, but I had another gear. I felt if I had to step it up. The final then was against an Italian. Me and Ian talked a plan with him, what to do, and he was a tricky southpaw. Leading into the final, it was a big show. There was a big gala. Lily was after fighting. Unfortunately, Lily lost to Gabriela Busa. Ian came over and said, "Don't let that affect you now. Just do you." I went out there. I did really well in the first round. Second round, I let it slip a little bit. Third round, I was really tired. I was only up by 1 or 2 scores, and Ian just made it simple. It's like, you just got to keep your focus. You just got to keep it simple to the basics, and that was it. At one point, it transitioned in his favor, so he was winning. I think going into the last 30 seconds, I managed to pull it back with a few scores. So the last round was very. It was all decided in the last even few seconds, you could say. But the last round was where I definitely won the fight. And it ended like that. It ended on me winning on a single point.
That close, kind of world champion and silver medal.
Oh yeah, people at home couldn't see the scoreboard, so they didn't know I'd won until Ian ran on the mats to give me a hug. But it was so close. Even the Italians, who I know quite well, the Italian coaches, they were saying that was the best fight. Like, that was amazing, and like there was people off their seats screaming and shouting, and it was one of those that came right down to the end, and everyone was off their seats. So I didn't pay any attention to that. Like, even watching the fight now, it's kind of hard to remember. I don't remember doing that, and I don't remember that happening. It all just happened. It was all happened so quick.
You actually seem quite sharp in your details when you remember you were fighting. I did this, I gave a left hook going in or out. But is it a blur in the middle of it? Like, how do you, like, you seem to have very good details about looking back in fights, but when you're actually in the midst...
Some of the other fights I do remember clearly, but that fight in particular I don't remember as much. I remember hitting him and his eye opened up. His eye, like, he had a cut in his eye. I remember that slowed down the fight because the medics had to have a look at it. I remember stepping off with a hook at one point. I remember catching him with a head kick that Ian said that didn't score. And I remember him sweeping me and knocking me to the floor. That's about it. Like, the rest of it I don't really remember. Like, in between the rounds, Ian popped up the chair we were fighting on this big kind of stage podium thing. And I just remember, like, lying back, having my eyes closed, not looking at anything else, just eyes closed. Ian had my legs up, just talking to me, and that was it. And just focused on getting as much air into me as I can, and then slowing down my heart rate, and that was it. So I was definitely in a tunnel vision.
The Tony Stephenson that won the world title 10 years ago was a boy. The Tony Stephenson that won the world title this year is a man, you said, with a partner, with a beautiful baby daughter. You're 10 years older. How much more do you appreciate this one? Because you were telling me before, like, it made everything worthwhile. The early mornings, the running up Loch Hyne, going up and down to Dublin for sparring. Like, kind of, do you really appreciate this one? Can you really kind of...
Yeah, I appreciate this way, way more now. It's kind of hard to put that. Like, I remember after Austria winning, Ian was like, "You're a man now," and I remember going, "I don't really believe you," because I'm going back to do my leaving cert now, and I was still very immature. This time, it just felt more right. It was really hard. It felt like I had to put in a man's adult work. Like I think last time I still fought as a kid. I still won. I still luckily won. It was a bit more sloppy. This time it just felt more, like I earned it as an adult man, as putting in the effort as anyone could possibly put in.
Do you still search for that recognition?
No, not anymore. Don't care.
You're kind of happy, so you're just a lot more content with where you are right now.
Yeah. Like, there's things like you have that kind of ego that's like, oh, but you want to do this, and if you do this, you get this, and no, I kind of ignore it now. It's a lot quieter. It's a lot quieter in my head. It doesn't talk as loud anymore. I have a daughter now. It gives me a completely different perspective. Like, I could fight for another 10 years, but if it interferes with her, like, growing up and not seeing me as much, it's not worth it. I'll do it to what extent I don't know from now on, like how serious I will. I still think I'm going to fight, no doubt about it. I'm still going to compete and fight. I love fighting too much. But if it means that I'm not going to see my daughter on weekends, if I'm training in Dublin and all this stuff, no, it's not as worth it as much. There'll be some weekends there's no two ways about it. I have to go, I'll have to compete, or I have to do this. But if it's every weekend, no, it's not worth it then.
Because let's say Taekwondo, like, is that box ticked, closed and put away now? Like, you're not going to go back in there again.
No.
So it's just, when it's martial arts now, it is kickboxing, but it's, like you said, you're kind of probably still undecided at what level. Like, if you're going to commit for the Worlds in 2 years' time again.
There was one thing that did pique my interest, and I tried Olympic karate, and I was talking to some of the guys on the Irish team, and I was saying, okay, can I do 2020? And they were like, no chance. You're talking to us in the end of 2018, and they're saying, no, you're not going to get enough points to go for 2020. But they were like, look, keep training, finish your kick, because I was on about Bosnia, and they're like, do Bosnia, come back, we'll train just karate, and we'll get you ready for, like, we'll set our sights on 2024. And that was a coach up in Cork, a really nice guy actually, and he thought I had potential. I was like, oh, this is great. I just remember one day, you're on the toilet and you have your phone and you're just flicking through. I remember going, what? And the headline was karate booted out of 2024 for breakdancing. I was like, no. I remember ringing him up going, what the hell is this? And he was like, I was like, could this be changed? He was like, yeah, they're on about changing it. They could change in December. So the decision could be reversed.
Yeah.
So karate could still go in for 2024, maybe in December, and I'll know. If that does happen, I think I'll be,
could perk your interest. Yeah.
That voice will get louder in my head, and I'll be like, I could try that,
How are you at breakdancing?
I'm alright, not too bad. No, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Karate. Maybe. We'll
There's
see.
options there for you, which is kind of
And I'm 28. It's not like I'm 38. If I was 38, I'd be like, no chance. 28. There's athletes that still have the prime and best in their career between 28, 32, and 33. So I definitely want to keep fighting. I'll do something, but to what extent and how serious I take it, I'll talk to Ian and we'll make a plan.
Coaching is a big part of you too now as well, Tony. Talk about coaching. How much do you enjoy it?
Oh, I love it. I do it at different levels in that I have a youth development program in the club now, and they do test matches and they do sparring and they train 2-3 times a week, and the ones that are really good are showing potential, I take them to competition, and eventually hopefully they'll go on to be elites when they're teenagers. So the guys, for example, like Ian O'Flynn and Luke Cronin and Garrod and Hannah Green and the Collins boys, they're the elites in the club, and basically my job will be to take on young kids to get them transitioned to be good teenagers to join the elite team. So I'm loving that. I'm loving that process, and I love the idea then of getting to a standard where I can give them to Ian. So the problem we had before in the club was there was just a kid who would be like, I want to do competition. And you'd have to have the chat with them, with the mom and the dad, and be like, well, look, they're not ready, or they are ready, or the parent is over pushy and they go to tournament and they get hurt and they never want to do it again. This way we can do test matches within the club and take it step by step. Then at the youngest level, I teach 4 and 5 and 6 year olds, and they're really funny. They're gas. It's really lovely teaching them. Even sitting down and talking to them, I'm improving on how to communicate with them and how to talk to them about motivation. And last week we had an anti-bullying week where I talked to them about anti-bullying and what to do against bullying, and working with them and making it fun for them, and having them just interact back and seeing them get more confident and making friends in that environment, and seeing them improve, and then getting the feedback from the parents and going, they're improved on the way they're in school, the way they're at home. They're more confident, they're more focused, they're more disciplined. They do what I tell them to do at home in the evening. Hearing that kind of stuff makes it so worthwhile, and it's lovely then having my own students over the years progress, because Ian's had that. Ian's had me since I was 6 and 7 and 8, and I'm 28 now. So he must have some joy seeing me improve over the years. I want that. I want a bit of what Ian's had, and I want to produce my own team and see them grow into athletes, and I think that would be lovely for a very worthwhile, rewarding, that kind of experience.
Because the wheel has almost come full circle, you're now playing the role that Ian did years ago when you joined the club and stuff. So you can see from both sides now, from a fighter and a coach and stuff, and you get enjoyment out of seeing these young kids develop and progress and stuff. And that, so with fatherhood, would fatherhood have changed your your outlook and your
I remember
when it comes to coaching and all?
I remember when a parent would bring their kid to train with me first. Before I was a dad, it was like, all right, another kid, cool, let's we'll make it fun and interesting for them now. When I had my own daughter Isla, I remember coming out of the hospital and going, wow, this is my daughter, and whoa, and how much responsibility and trust would I have to put into someone to look after them for an hour. So when I look at a parent now, I'm going, you're giving me that same trust and responsibility to look after your child for that hour. That's very wow, that's so nice of you, thank you. So it's completely, I overlooked it before, but now I appreciate any parent then who would send their kid to train with me for an hour. It's very well, thank you so much. And it's such a lovely thing because I know if, like I said, if I was to leave Isla with someone for an hour, I'd be still going, I hope everything's all right, and they're doing, she's doing well, and she's not kicking up a tantrum and stuff. So I have a whole new respect for our parents in that sense since I've become a dad, And even the same way, like you said, your father made a decision for you when you were 12 and stuff,
you can see it now from both sides of it. Like, you'll have to make decisions for your daughter when she's older and stuff. So
like, I'm not going to be like, oh, Isla has to be a fighter. She's like, I don't care if she's a world champion or not when she's older. It'll be a thing where she's going to do the sport because she's going to learn stuff that I learned, really important life skills. Like, I don't, like, again, if you win a competition, you win a medal at the end of it and you get a bit of recognition, that's lovely, that's great, that's a cherry on the cake. But all the other stuff, discipline, self-defense, confidence, respect, these are things that, you know, will serve you in other parts of your life, not just kickboxing, you know, and they're the tenets of any like good martial arts. And so I would want her to do it for that reason, but she's still going to do the others. She's going to do a team sport as well, so she's going to do a bit of football too. She's going to do gymnastics as well for her balance and flexibility, and she's going to do kickboxing for all the other things I spoke about. So when she's in her teens, then I imagine she'll want to just do the one, and that's when I'll step back if she doesn't want to do kickboxing, be like, that's fine, you're going to do football, that's great, let's go into football. And I'll be more like, I'd like to imagine I could be more like my dad and step into the sport, like, and follow her into her chosen sport the way my dad did. My dad, I don't know if it ever upset him that I never went into soccer or I never was good. Like, he was a good soccer player when he was younger, and he wanted that for me. But at one point he must have gone, soccer's not for Tony. Kickboxing, he really likes this kickboxing. Do you know what? I'm going to jump in with 2 feet and become a ref and learn and be part of the competition and be part of the atmosphere and be part of the training. That way, when Tony comes home with me, we can have a conversation and chat about what he's done. Because I imagine that would be hard for some parents. You know, they drop their kid off and they go and they do their thing and they go shopping and stuff. They come home and a kid would be like, yeah, I caught Johnny with such and such spinning hook kick to the face. And the mom and dad would be like, oh, is that good? Yeah. Dad knew everything. He would sit there in the class with us, and I want to be that kind of dad. I want to be a hands-on dad where I'm watching, I'm taking a huge part of it, and I'm interested as well, do you know?
And no doubt when she's older and she reads your exploits, she'll be so proud of her dad. Come here, Tony. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to all things sport in West Cork. Don't forget to pick up this Thursday's Southern Star newspaper, including our award-winning sports section with everything a West Cork sports fan could want. In shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world via www.thesouthernstar.ie/e-paper. The Southern Star and the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Great stuff there from Tony Kieran. A really interesting interview, and just a great fella and an inspiration when he was talking there about the work he's doing as a coach with the youth development now. It's just it says a lot. You'd look up to a man like him in West Cork, wouldn't you? Yeah,
the wheel has come full circle. He was, like you mentioned there, he was 6 or 7. He started off in kickboxing under Ian Kingston, and kickboxing helped him. He had a problem with his stammer, but it helped him get the confidence to kind of move forward from that. And now Tony is the man coaching young kids coming into the club. So it's fantastic to see, and it's great to see how positive kickboxing and sport has been on Tony's life. And I think that's a kind of a common theme that a lot of sports people across West Cork and further afield can relate to. Sport is it does so many good things, kind of physically, mentally, and so on. So it's great chat with Tony. So we really thank him for giving so much of his time to come in and chat with us here in the Star Sport Podcast. So thanks again for listening to this week's show. We'll be back at the same time next week. So if you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Acast, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to the show.